Hello friends, welcome back for part 2 of us fixing Damien K's base. And once again, thank you Damien K for sending your base in, really appreciate that. If you want to send your own base in, I'm going to link a form down below where you can submit it and maybe you'll be on a future episode. So just as a quick reminder of what we're going to be doing as far as rules for fixing this base is number 1, no duplicants can die. That would just make the challenge way too easy if I could do that. Secondly, we need to make sure we are fully sustainable on our oxygen, food, and cooling by the end of it. I want to get it to a point where the base could just sit by itself and do nothing and be fine for a really long time. So those are the things we need to solve. Now for this particular base, one of the first things that we need to deal with is there's too many things for our duplicants to do. So I'm going to have them do less of those things on a routine basis, which is probably going to be shutting down systems that we don't really need so that they can focus on the things that we need to fix right now. So first of all, anywhere that we see these critter feeders, I want to get rid of it. I don't need to ranch that many critters all at once. So I'm going to find them out here. I'm also going to get rid of the grooming stations on the type of critters that we don't really need right now. Only because ranching is a quite inefficient form of food if you think about it. Like, your duplicants have to spend a lot of time working, and it's only if I want the byproducts of this ranching am I really going to need to keep it up. So the byproducts I really want are these hatches. So I am going to keep these hatches. I'll get rid of this incubator, by the way. So let's make sure that we have a more efficient way to feed these hatches, and I'll drop a bunch of storage bins here. If I find any other places where we have any ranching going on, like grooming stations or whatever else, there's some down here with these slicksters. Let's see, there was one more place that I wanted to get to. Oh, the pacus, of course. Yeah, so I don't really want to deal with these pacus either. I don't want to have to constantly have my duplicants going back here and feeding them and spending time on them. I would much rather get on a food source that's going to be faster and easier to deal with. So I'm going to clear out some space in this food cooking room, also known as a kitchen, but I'm going to call it a food cooking room. And we're going to change up our food priorities just a little bit. So for one, I want to stop making frost buns and I want to stop making gristleberries because I want to focus that into making berry sludge. Berry sludge is very efficient and it is not a big time sink and it lasts for a really long time. So I'm gonna put down our microbe musher, we'll get that going. And then I also want to find all the places that I have access to sleet wheat and kind of expand that a little bit. So I'm gonna dig out some of this stuff. I'll mark this for harvest. And oh man, this ice biome is gigantic. Holy crap. Okay, so we're gonna just kind of dig down here and get a bunch of stuff from the ice biome and kind of change up our food that's gonna be going here. Just so our duplicants, like, I want my duplicants to be bored. I want them to be looking for something to do. So that when we start doing our bigger projects and fixing some of the bigger problems, they're actually available to do that. They're actually having to travel really far. I'll just see if I can find any other ice biomes, but the whole point here is we want to make sure our berry sludge is getting produced at a high rate. And then when it is produced at a high rate, we want to not store it in our fridge because it's going to take up a lot of space. But hopefully we should see our food skyrocket here in the next little bit. So that'll be the focus. So let our duplicants get that going and we'll move on to the next project. Alright, while I've been poking around, I remembered that there are some biomes that have been kind of crossing temperatures with one another. So I'm just going to start sealing some of those things off in an attempt to preserve them as much as possible. Looks like we are harvesting some of this sleet wheat. But yeah, as I poke around, I'm just noticing that we want to make sure your access into these biomes is pretty clean, and also not going to pose a longer term problem of this like melting and not being usable. There's a lot of free food here that we want to grab, so make sure these aren't under threat by anything like exposing them to other areas or whatever else might be the problem. So yeah, just going to keep searching for sleet wheat. Okay, while the duplicants are running around, let's check a couple things. One, I want to check our skills and make sure that we have all these assigned. I kind of want these all to be bumping up kind of close to their morale ceiling, just to make sure that they're working as quickly and efficiently as possible. So I'll run through and assign some skills to all these duplicants, but I'm going to mostly focus on digging and construction, because that's a lot of the work that needs to be done. And then if I have extra points, I'll probably put it in carrying, suit wearing, just so they can move around faster, that kind of stuff. And if there's any of them that are spec'd really badly, which I don't see, I think these are all in pretty good shape. There's nothing excessive, like we don't need 20 doctors, for example. So this looks pretty good. But yeah, so I'm going to focus on that. I'm also going to focus on schedule cleanups, priorities, that kind of stuff. So scheduling, I'm going to put them into 4 different groups so that we don't have as much strain on our bathrooms and food areas and stuff like that all at once. Priorities look okay. I might not mess around with them too much, but yeah, that's another thing that I'm going to get in order here really quickly. Oh, now that we have bristle blossoms, or sorry, berry sludge coming, I want to make sure we've also banned a lot of the consumables from our duplicants, because we don't want them eating all the raw ingredients, so let's check it out. Looks like this stuff's done pretty well. Just need to ban the bristleberries. Looks like everything else is pretty good, so nice. Yeah, so just want them focusing on the right foods, and this is really going to skyrocket because we just found a whole bunch of sleek wheat grain. There's tons of it in the fridge. It'll get turned into berry sludge. Make sure to not storing it in the fridge, and we'll be good on our food for a long time, so that should solve a big problem. Oh, I also mentioned this in the previous video, but I want to turn off systems that are going to be heating up my base too much. So for the saltwater geyser and the regular water geyser, I'm going to set them to basically never be able to turn on because I'm going to set the settings so high. And I'm also going to start worrying about any other things that are introducing a lot of heat into my base so that I can get that under control. This area in particular is kind of a problem. It's been overheating these power transformers quite a bit, so I want to get this walled off and kind of get the temperature under control in that area. But yeah, so food, cooling, we'll get that kind of stuff under control real quick. Alright, another thing that I did was kind of shut down this space area until we're ready to get back out here. Reason being is we were having regolith coming into the base, and it was sending a lot of excess heat into here. And since we're going to need to deal with cooling at some point, one of the best indirect ways to deal with cooling is to just kind of get rid of stuff that's producing an excess amount of heat. Which sounds obvious, but it's not really the first way that we think about solving these problems. So a couple of other places that are producing an unnecessary amount of heat. I'm going to get rid of this battery bank, and I'm going to get rid of a bunch of these batteries. We don't need that much. We will be able to survive on just a handful of them. Our generators will just have to turn on and off a little bit more, which is not a big deal. It's kind of the whole idea behind the smart batteries anyway, so yeah. We'll just keep moving forward with that, and our food is already starting to go up. About ready to start our next project. Alright, as I've been playing this more, I've been kind of noticing there's a lot of time spent by my duplicants just running stuff around. So any bins that I've found that have been requesting things, I've been destroying. Just because we will worry about moving stuff around afterward, and I don't want my duplicants to run like all the way to the corner of the map and then all the way back in order just to move something. So anything like that I have gotten rid of just so my duplicants have more time to just do stuff that we want them to do to help us stabilize a little bit more. So we're going to start seeing duplicants idling here, which means that now that we have duplicant free time, we'll be able to do a lot bigger projects all at once. Okay, my duplicants are sufficiently bored. That's good. Now I'm going to work on kind of the center of my base. I want the center of my base to be organized in the sense of the space usage here to be very efficient, because that's where I want all of my duplicants to be spending most of their time. So the way I'm going to do this is this area I think I'm just going to convert into a lot of hatch ranching, because that's the only real ranching that I want to do, and it'll be close to the center. I'll probably turn this into my food area, mostly because it's very centralized and very cool, so growing blossoms here ought to be pretty easy. And then I'm going to convert this into a little bit more efficient living area, so I'll just kind of be rebuilding that and checking in periodically. Okay, midway through getting our central area all rebuilt, but we're starting to kind of run low on oxygen. So I'm going to solve that problem mostly by just tapping into some nearby sources. So we have a big section of polluted oxygen here that we can clean. We have a bunch of pressurized stuff in here. I may set up an area just to produce it from polluted water, but I'm not 100% sure yet. We do have this flowing, but it's just not quite enough to keep everything going. So let's just supplement that for right now, because since this is all in the interest of my duplicants' time, I want them to be working as much as possible and not taking time to catch their breath. So let's crack into here and get this going. Okay, we're ready to get this going. Just gonna open up a couple spots here to let this oxygen flow through. Same thing with up here and up here. Now, if any polluted water will gas off, it'll start turning into oxygen and help supplement what we're creating here in the center of our base. After that, once we solve the bigger problem, we can get back to restructuring the center. Gonna create a little bit of a mess here, but it'll take a little bit to mop up. That's fine. We just want to get some better airflow and some better, like, space usage in this area is what I would like. But, yeah, we'll get that problem solved and we'll move forward. Okay, I think our living quarters are in better shape here. Just have one great hall as opposed to the two that we had before. If my duplicants are going to eat, they're going to wash their hands before then, so that means we can have a smaller bathroom. I can get rid of this one, by the way. So they don't need to wash their hands when they leave the bathroom, they just need to wash their hands before they go to eat. As long as they're not eating anything else that is outside of this area, and as long as they're not drinking any water that has food poisoning in it or anything like that, then we should not have a problem. Toilet out of order. Alright, who messed this up? It looks like I did, but we're running low on water? Something weird's going on. Alright, whatever. We'll get that fixed. And we'll move forward. But the whole idea is we do have our living quarters done. Now I'm going to work on getting this area fleshed out to be mostly my bristle blossom area. I don't want it so distributed. I'd rather have it all in one area. That way it'll free up area for this, and we can create some more hatch ranches. So let's get on that. Alright, all this water management stuff is in a really inconvenient spot compared to where I'd rather have my duplicants working. So stuff like this that's going to be mostly automated, I want to move out of the way. So I'm probably going to drain this down a little bit further down here since this is kind of unused real estate. And we're going to consolidate all this into a couple of tanks that are going to be one for our regular water and one for polluted water, since it seems like that's how that's being managed here. So going to work on that so we can get stuff out of the way before we get our blossoms reestablished in this area. Okay, got this all ready to get moved out of the way. And all we have to do now is just delete a couple tiles and everything should fall down to where it's supposed to go. Actually, I should probably not do that one. Let's try this one. Yeah. And I'm just gonna... I don't really understand all the piping yet, but I'm just gonna try to maintain how it's been working before so I don't horrifically break anything. And also kind of keep the same idea of how the base was flowing before, because, surprise, Damien, I'm going to be giving you this base back afterwards if you want to keep going with it. But if not, that's also totally fine. But, yeah, so now that we've got that moved, we can start restructuring this and get our bristle blossoms in a better spot. Okay, another thing that we're doing amidst all this is we're redoing some of the plumbing in this area, only because it was pretty confusing to figure out where everything was going. But as long as we have a central place for all of our cool water, and we have some polluted water here that you were melting some polluted ice in, which I think is a good idea, I'm just going to retain that. But the plumbing and stuff we can simplify, so that's what we're going to be doing here. Especially if you see any of these liquid filters or anything like that, there's a cheaper way you can do that. But ultimately the best way to filter it out is just to make sure that nothing of the wrong type gets in the wrong place. So if this polluted water happens to get sucked up and sent somewhere, I'll just repair or empty wherever it's supposed to, wherever it goes and causes some damage, but I'll just make sure that nothing else can get in here that is of the wrong type. The other thing too is there's a lot of power lines that we're all crossing each other in this area, so I'm just gonna put them all on these heavy watt lines, or sorry, these are conductive wires. But any of these large power transformers that are overheating over here, I'll just replace as well with some other metals because the lead will overheat. We'll deal with all the heat in this area, but yeah, kind of coming together. Okay, now that we got everything moved out of the way, we're ready to start on our blossom area. I'm going to get rid of these farm stations only because they're not going to be super useful, and then that means I can also get rid of the doors on the side and just squeeze a little bit more in here. But once I have all these blossom plots up, we're going to get rid of the ones that are over here and just kind of move it to this one central area. So there's only one place we really need to farm from. After that, our food sources will basically be mostly reliant on berry sludge. There's still some barbecue coming through because the eggs are still being dropped down here, which is where they will be drowned and turned into food. So we'll get that restored. They're mostly just sitting right here for right now. But yeah, the food situation is about to fully stabilize. Okay, our food looks good. We've got all this stuff pretty much stabilized. We're going to get ready to put hatches over here, where our calories are way higher than they were before, and we should be fine for quite a while as long as our sleet wheat is still accessible. So for food right now, we're not quite out of the woods yet. I still want to make sure we do have renewable water set up, as there's a bunch of different water sources that we're going around, And one of the bigger ones was melting ice, which we're not always going to be dependent on. So let's figure out the water situation. Let's get our hatches more populated in here. And we'll probably do some shipping stuff to help save our duplicants some work time. But we're going to do that all in the next video. So like I said, the whole series will be up at the same time. So if you're watching this, the next one already exists. Hop over there and I'll see you there really soon.